Karma's a BTCH, eventually. So I just thought I'd tell you all a story for anyone who thinks cheating doesn't catch up on everyone eventually. It starts about 10 years ago when my partner was caught cheating with someone he worked with. Let's call her Haley. She had no idea he was in a relationship and was appalled at his behavior. We spoke and she apologized, although it wasn't her fault. She left her job so she wouldn't have to be near him, and eventually left the country. It was relatively early in our relationship, although we were living together, and I decided to give him another chance. We went on to have a few kids together but eventually split for other reasons a few years ago. Since we have kids, we're still in contact and are as close to friends as two people with a complicated past can be. He starts seeing someone new and confides in me she's having problems trusting him, because he has a reputation for sleeping around, but he really likes this woman and wants to find a way to make it work. He says the new girlfriend is willing to give him a chance but is inviting her best friend over to stay. She lives in another country and would like them to meet. I explained to him how this is like a job interview with the friend and just be nice and hope for the best. So, fast forward a few weeks, and he invites me to breakfast. It's the day after the friend meet, so I ask how it went. He said one sentence and I've not stopped laughing since. Her best friend is Haley. It may have taken 10 years, but karma bit him in the ass hard. Redditor's reactions, story 2 after. Redditor 1, Universe 20 cheater. That's hilarious, just be nice and hope for the best, ha ha ha. Redditor 2, Karma. Thank you for sharing. I am hoping for the day when my STBXH gets his whopping dose of karma. Redditor 3, what are the chances? That's amazing and definitely karma. Too serendipitous not to be. Redditor 4, haha, this is now my favorite story ever. I hope the girl dropped him so fast. Answer, it's my favorite story too. He hasn't seen or heard from her since this happened. He got a dog instead. Story 2, 3 months pregnant and found out husband has cheated. Good people can make mistakes, I know that. Unconditional love is unconditional. I feel that too. We have been together for more than 10 years, now married, and I found out he has been trying to meet a girl he claims previous fling booty call from before we met at least 3 times in the past 2 weeks via text. He said she reached out to him first by phone, but all the messages chats I saw were instigated by him. None of those attempts has led to a meetup yet, he claims. But he knew what he was doing every time and intended to follow through. I suspected nothing and found out by complete accident. I feel humiliated and isolated. We have many mutual friends and are very connected to each other's families, so I haven't been able to tell anyone except 2 people. I packed my things and left for the week. To be 3 months pregnant and sleeping on a friend's couch, knowing that the man I never would have thought could so such a thing, has done such a thing, and never really knowing if it's happened before with others, never knowing how far he would have taken it or how long he would have kept the secret if I hadn't found out. He seems remorseful, very apologetic, says he can cut ties in an instant, seems regretful, doesn't want to lose what we have and wants a chance to prove himself. I just wanted the opportunity to share. Any comments, stories, words of wisdom is appreciated. Redditor's reactions, story 3 after. Redditor 1, says he can cut ties. Really? He expressed that in those words. Not that he had already cut ties, but that he could. That is not remorse. Answer, well, he didn't confess, I caught him. That's when he said he could do all these things, including cut ties, delete her number, never reply to her again, etc. etc. Redditor 2, Good people can make mistakes. He has been trying to meet a girl he claims previous fling booty call from before we met at least 3 times in the past 2 weeks via text. Repeating the same action for 2 weeks isn't a mistake. It's a clear decision. Redditor 3, they always say she reached out to them first, and they are almost always lying. He is currently panicking because he was caught and doesn't know how much you actually know. He is going to make excuses and drop little pieces of information to see how you react in an attempt to see what you know. My ex was always the first to instigate, and he usually had some insider information where he thought he would be successful, such as the other woman having relationship issues. He is going to scrub his email, texts, social media accounts and phone, but not to cut ties, just make it harder for him to get caught next time. A guy who is putting in that much effort to cheat on his pregnant wife instead of using that energy to focus on you and the arrival of your child is not worth staying with. He has shown his true colors. Op answer, totally agree on that front. In every message chat he contacted her first, and each time he asked her to meet up, she had an excuse. It didn't read like she was reaching out desperately to be his beauty call. I have no evidence that she reached out first. Some have suggested getting him to call her and tell her to be honest and give me all the details and then passing the phone to me so I can corroborate. Story 3, he cheated on me with our friend. I always had a feeling he was cheating and not sure why I stayed so long. When I would confront him about my suspicions, he denied everything and turned it around to make me think I had trust issues. Yup. I started to believe him. I eventually left him because he is an extreme alcoholic, a narcissist, and couldn't stand seeing him come home drunk 7 nights a week. When I went back one day to pick up the rest of my things, I found FB messages between B and L. They were talking about how happy they were, how he couldn't get the smile off his face and that she couldn't wait to see him again. We were together for 22 years and I knew her for that long as well. Needless to say, I completely exploded and responded to their messages with all the hate I suddenly felt for them both. Told her it was me responding, and the moron replied, "OMG, did someone tell her?" She was referring to all our mutual friends that I considered family. 22 years of friendships down the drain because they all knew about their affair even before I left him. After telling them both exactly what I thought, I was ruthless. I called my husband and the coward didn't even have the guts to pick up the phone. I tore up all the photos I brought back that I thought he would like to have, packed up the rest of my things and took our cat. She would post things publicly on FB that said, "He never really loved you and he always loved me." They've known each other for over 22 years and they broke up a few months after I left. Elle got exactly what she deserved by being dumped by the guy she actually thought loved her. He caused an accident a few months later, got arrested for drunk driving and doing drugs, and lost his license for 6 months. During all this going on, both my parents died. I moved out of state and started a new job. It's been a couple years now. I went through a lot of therapy, and I'm actually grateful he cheated. I live near a beautiful beach in another state, have a much better perspective on life, have a wonderful relationship with my family, and I'm seeing a nice man. B and L got exactly what they deserve. Good riddance to them both and to all the people I once considered friends. B is still an alcoholic, but at least now he uses Uber. L is in a new relationship and posted a picture of some flowers her new man gave her. He's a keeper, she said on her public post. They were plastic flowers. I was crying so hard with laughter and it made my day all that much better. Thanks for your betrayal, B and L. I have a much more peaceful and happy life now. I live in a beautiful beachside community and you're both stuck in the same shithole city where you belong. Redditor's reactions, story 4 after. Redditor 1, sweet, sweet justice. I'd consider blocking her though and leaving it at that. Though her page does contain such rich fodder, lol. Redditor 2, couldn't happen to a more deserving duo. Redditor 3, I often say that my ex and his girlfriend, also a former friend of mine, completely deserve each other. They're both liars and deserve every essity thing that happens to them. Story 4, how did you BS catch your WS, or how did you WS get caught? I'm genuinely curious about this. I caught one ex when I walked into his room and was being given a blowjob by some woman. My most recent ex cheated twice. The first time I knew from almost the beginning by their interactions. He gaslighted the duck out of me, but I, unfortunately, and thankfully, was raised on gaslighting. I ended up reaching out to his AP and she told me that some mildly inappropriate things happened. I took the memory card out of his phone and managed to download its content. There were 210 pictures and videos of the affair. I was recovering from a spinal fusion when he cheated. I was bedbound while he slept with someone else right next door. The second time I'd had a bad feeling for months. A car was stranded on the side of the road and he stopped to help. I got info his phone and saw a single text that said, "Hey sexy." I confronted him about it, and he looked panicked. He said he must send the text by accident and there was no response, so I chose not to push the matter with him at the time. I finally caught him by putting my old iPhone in the car and set it to record. That's how I caught him the second time. Redditor's reactions. Redditor 1, she had grown uncomfortably close to a mutual friend we had made together after we moved to a new state. I thought nothing of it until a friend of ours came to visit and was dumbfounded at how she was obsessed with him. It opened my eyes and I was extremely cautious and suspicious of everything and tried to find proof, and never could she hit her tracks too well. Then one day got off work early and before walking into her dorm I heard her on the phone with her best friend about how she could never tell me she was cheating because I was her cash cow as I was paying for her college, and if I ever found out I would ruin her. Needless to say I did, and if felt great. Still awkward though and mentally fucks with me even now almost a year later. Redditor 2, gaslighted me about her boss for years. Told me, he's just like a sister to me. She soon began spending mornings before work with him. That escalated to nights out. I was so upside down at this point as she'd come home and love bomb me. I finally read her diary that she kept right out in the open for almost a year. She was madly in love with him, considered him the most complete man she'd ever known. I don't quite know if she slept with him. She did admit to going to his place to confess her love for him. I do know that she often talked about what I'd do if she cheated. Her boss did not at all believe in marriage, and inexplicably she came back from Vaca, and insisted on using protection for a month 6 years in when she'd been against it for years, and had an IUD. I guess I may never know. The betrayal and gaslighting was more than enough for me to walk away. Redditor follow-up, the protection is all the proof you'll ever need. She had time with the guy, they're adults for Pete's sake. Redditor 3, I got a call from a woman my ex-wife fired, telling me that my ex was sleeping with Tom every day on her lunch hour. I asked my ex if she was having an affair and she told me she went to see Jim on Saturdays when I worked. I then asked about Tom. It seems Tom was her workday screw and Jim handled Saturdays. Redditor follow-up, at the risk of threadjacking, did you ever call your ex-wife before she passed? That was an incredibly poignant post, and I wasn't envying the position you found yourself in. She sounds like she was a piece of work.